Mr. Gourlay speak to you guys about leadership. And I think he'll give you guys a minute at the end to ask some questions. So whenever you're ready, Mr. Gourlay.
Mr. Gourlay, before you do that, can you tell them a little bit about your position and how many people you lead so they have an idea of the credibility that you carry?
Sure. Well, thank you to both the masters for inviting me to this meeting. I really do appreciate it. I'm really excited to all of you for Black Belts. So my title, I work for Bank of America, and the title I hold is Senior Vice President, Unit Leader 2. And what that means is I run a call center for the bank, which takes inbound and outbound calls and services an automobile and specialty portfolio. And what I mean by that is we have airplanes, we have boats, we have anything that has a wheel or an engine. And the portfolio, the size of it is $42 billion. Wow. So I have 125 employees. I have some in California, I have some in Jacksonville, and I have 8 frontline managers that report to me. So basically, each one of them has 15 people, and the 8 of them report up to me, and then I report up to the executives. So we're in charge of making sure the bank doesn't, then we ask them to pay it very nicely. So in a nutshell, that's what I do. And being a person that doesn't actually do the job, and let me explain what I mean by that. My employees are on the phone with the customer doing the work. The managers are making sure that the employees are doing the work. And then I make sure that everything runs smoothly. So when you look at that whole structure, who would you say is a manager and who would you say is a leader? Does anybody know? Go ahead.
You guys can, if you want to answer, you can unmute yourself and answer.
You use confidence.
What'd you say?
You do have to use confidence to be a leader. That's right, Abby.
Yes, you do need confidence. So the position is called a manager. However, something that I would like to drive home, and I've been teaching this since I started managing, is you manage a process and you lead people. So what I mean by that is when you come into karate and you showing somebody how to do a low block, you're managing the process. But when you explain to them what it is and they eventually are able to do it themselves, now you're leading them to be able to do it. Does that make sense? So the actual low block is a process, but then being able to do it is you leading. And Masters, does everybody have the black belt manual or just the student manual?
Student manual.
Student, okay. So when you look at our 7 tenets, so I've been doing Tang Soo Do and martial arts now for close to 25 years. And the 7 tenets have actually carried me through my management and leadership career in every single aspect that you can think of as a leader. So as you go about your Tang Soo Do career and you eventually move into being a black belt, you need to be able to show leadership skills. And leadership skills are coaching, training, and developing people to be the best they can so that they can do something themselves. Has anybody ever heard the term, if I feed you, if I give you a fish, I fed you for the day. If I teach you to fish, I fed you for life. Has anybody heard that one before?
Yes, sir.
So it's very easy to just tell somebody to fix something. However, if you explain to them why they need to fix it and what it is that they're doing, eventually they'll be able to teach somebody else. Does that make sense? So think about the 7 tenets that we have: integrity, concentration, perseverance, respect and obedience, indomitable spirit, self-control, humility. These are all things that I have to do every single day. So dealing with 120 people, you can imagine, right? Everybody has their own little problems. Everybody has a different issue. And if I treated everybody exactly the same, some people would be very unhappy. So remember earlier when I said you manage people, you lead people and you manage processes? It's very important that we treat people how they would like to be treated and how you would like to be treated. And that's with respect. And then if you take your time and calmly show somebody how to do something, then they will do the right thing when the time comes. And I'll give you an example of that. So right now, everybody's at home, right? So I run a business that requires you to be in a building attached to a phone talking to customers. And the bank said, okay, everybody now needs to go home. Well, that created a little bit of chaos for us because how exactly were we going to take 120 people and send them all home? However, there was a process that was put in place. And because the team believed in me and my leadership team, because they trusted us, because they respected us, we gave them what they needed to do to go home and be safe. And within the space of 3 days, we're taking 118 people and put them into their homes, attached to a computer, and we're servicing our customers. So the leadership that it takes in a situation when everything is not going right. It's easy to lead when everything is smooth. Business is running perfectly, life is great, and then all of a sudden something happens. And when something happens like this or any situation, you start to see some true leaders come out that you never really would have thought about previously. And everybody thinks that the person that speaks the loudest or is the one that takes over, that's the leader. Well, that's not necessarily always true. There are some leaders that are a little bit more quiet and they're a little bit more thoughtful about what they do. So if you're more of a slightly quiet, little bit more introverted, that doesn't mean you're not a leader. You can still be a leader and not necessarily be the person that's making the most noise in the room. And sometimes people will relate to you if you are a little bit more quiet. So my style of leadership is, I just need a little bit of information. I've got a book for me that say, hold on one second, Brian, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Well, if you don't take those people's thoughts and their direction and their observations into consideration, chances are you might just run over a cliff and not even realize that you've done it. So you need to make sure, as a good leader in life, that you don't surround yourself with people that think and act exactly like you. Because if you do, you'll just get more of the same. So the fact that I don't take a lot of information and diagnose and think and try, I need to surround myself with people that do that. So as you go about your martial arts career, I think you'll notice that when you look at the leadership, and I've been in martial arts a long time, we're all different and we all go about teaching and we all go about leading in a different way because we all have different styles. Would you guys agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Right. So a couple of things that I want you to take away. Does anybody take notes with this?
Mm-hmm. Some people are taking notes right now. I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There's 4 things that I want you to really take into consideration when you think about being a leader. First thing is, find yourself and keep mentors. Now, you guys are young, so you don't have business mentors yet. But those of us that do, we have mentors in business. We have mentors in our personal life. We have mentors in our martial arts lives. So make sure you find and keep mentors. Always surround yourself with positive people with good intent. You guys know that if you're around people that want to negatively influence you, you know what it's like at school, right? When somebody says, come on, let's go do this, and they're not doing the right thing. What's that called? It's called peer pressure, right? But if you surround yourself with people that are positive and your friends are positive and they think like you from a goals perspective and a direction in life, then you can carry one another and help one another be successful. You manage processes, you lead people. That one was taught to me by one of my first mentors in 1984. You try and manage people. What do you think is going to happen? What if I said to you, go clean your room right now? Or as an adult, I said to you, just do it because I said so. Not going to get anywhere, right? And are you going to have any respect for me? Are you going to like me? No. But if I explain to you why I'm doing something and I ask you to do, and we do it together, then that's different. Then you want to do it. And then in the future, you'll be able to do that just like that. And then the last thing is how you go about delivering your message. If you're going to be a leader or you're going to manage processes, you have to do so with a high level of confidence. Now, most of Master Luton, most of the individuals on here have probably done the verbal judo, right?
Quite a few. Raise your hand if you've done verbal judo, if you've sat in a verbal judo gold meeting, or if you've done the whole verbal. A few of you guys are verbal judo certified. Probably about 10 of these guys are verbal judo certified, but the rest have at least done some kind of verbal judo training.
Perfect. And you've also done a lot of bullying seminars, right? And how to treat, how to go about that, and how to disengage a bully. Well, that kind of message and that kind of delivery of your message works in leadership as well, because if you stand up straight, shoulders back, look somebody in the eye and very confidently ask them to do something, chances are that person's going to do what you say they should do. Now, I'll tell you, I've made many a decision where I didn't have all the information and I was a little worried that it might not work, but I needed to instill confidence in my team that we're going down the right road. We'll figure it out as we go. And that exactly is what is needed. Stand up, shoulders straight, make a decision, and talk with confidence. So as you become a black belt and as you become a teacher and you're standing up in front of your class, you want to be able to get your message across to your class in a very positive and professional manner, that they respect what you're saying and they want to do what you want them to do. So I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. I did go and browse my black belt manual. I went and looked at my student manual, and every single thing that I've spoken to you about today, you can get from the student manual. You just have to look. If you look at the first 2 pages where the Grandmaster is talking to us, he's talking about leadership, because as you move further into your karate career, you do more and more leadership and you do less and less of the actual karate, if I can put it that way. Because we generally stand up in front of the classroom and we're teaching, and that's the leadership position. So Master Luton, I hope I helped a little bit. I'll open it up for some questions. I do have a couple of minutes, and
great.
Well, thank you for letting me join.
One question. That was wonderful. Let's all give Mr. Gourlay a round of applause. That was really good. I know me and Master Lappin were both taking some notes. I'll start it off with a question for you, and then if anyone else has a question, go ahead and raise your hand. But Mr. Gourlay, what would you tell a student or a parent who is considering leadership black belt training? Because we have quite a few students in here who are in our leadership. Raise your hand if you're in our leadership program. Probably about, I would say 70% of the kids on here are in our leadership program. But for the ones who are considering setting that goal to black belt or joining our leadership program, what would you tell them?
I would say that having been around this program for so long now, I mean, some of the black belts that are 2nd degrees, some even 3rd degrees at Middleburg Martial Arts, I've seen them grow up. I saw them come in at 5, 6 years old, 7 years old. And these individuals have all the skills that are needed to be successful, not only in your karate, but in life. And I will promise you that life will throw you some curveballs. You'll end up dealing with some situations. I'm 52 years old and I've dealt with a lot of life. And I'll tell you that the leadership skills and the skills that I learned in my karate career have been what I've been able to fall back on. So I think that the leadership program that you've developed at Middleburg Martial Arts is absolutely phenomenal. And the skill set that the individuals that are in it portray are exactly what I would look for if I was interviewing somebody for a job. and they walked in with the skill that your leadership club has, and they started articulating themselves, and they were professional, and they carried themselves with a high level of confidence, because people make a decision in the first 30 seconds of meeting you. And the skill sets that you learn in your leadership club will help with anything in life. So I would strongly recommend it.
Thank you very much, sir. And that's exactly what you guys are doing. That's what we're working on. That's what we're learning right here with Mr. Gourlay for all of you guys that are in leadership. Okay, so who else has some questions for Mr. Gourlay? Any questions?
Someone just did.
Oh, you saw a hand?
Yeah, I saw a hand. Unmute yourself, whoever just raised their hand.
Oh, there's 2 pages.
There's
Oh, there's
3.
three
I have
pages.
3 on mine.
People.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Any questions? Anything? Last chance. Unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. Oh, Miss Danielle. Go ahead, Miss Danielle.
Okay. Just to make sure, what was the 4 things that you were trying to like tell us that were like really important?
It's your message delivery, how you say what you say. So imagine if I came on here right now today and I said, okay, guys, I'm gonna, well, I'm here to talk to you about leadership and are you gonna listen to me?
No.
Absolutely not, right? Because you have to be able to speak with confidence. You have your message. When you have a vision and you have a direction, you have to be able to take that vision and direction and be able to tell it to the people that are going to carry it out for you. And you have to be able to deliver that message well and with a high level of confidence. So it's message delivery.
All right. And Mr. Caleb, you have a question? Go ahead, Caleb.
How old were you when you got your black belt?
So I started karate when I was 28. And
Okay.
my goodness me, I can't remember now. I think I was in my mid-30s, but I started martial arts. I was 28 years old when I started. And you guys are, some of you aren't even 8, never mind 28. So you're definitely setting yourselves up wonderfully for your future and for your lives. And Caleb, I've watched you test, and you're an absolutely phenomenal martial artist. So keep that up.
Thank you.
And there's a lot of faces on here that I do recognize and see that I've seen test before, and that's absolutely amazing. But one thing that I will tell you with your martial arts career is you're running a marathon, you're not sprinting a 5K. So you're in this for the long haul, and you can be a martial artist for your entire life. The one thing that I do like about this martial art is I look to our grandmasters. And, one day I was sitting talking with Master Strong, and I said, sir, what makes you want to do this? He's in his 70s. He's hurting. He's like, Brian, I could sit on the couch and be in pain, or I could get up and do lots and get martial arts every single time, because my body hurts a little bit, but you know what? It feels a lot better, and so does my mind once I'm done doing a karate class.
Awesome. All right, Connor, you have a question? Go ahead, Connor.
Whenever he was talking about boats and motor vehicles, I wanted to make a boat out of my old truck because the transmission blew out, and I took it all apart to make one.
Wow.
That's very cool, Connor.
I put on the jack hook and
Very cool.
You're gonna make a boat like James Bond?
That'd be cool.
Yeah, probably.
Probably. All right. Miss Abby, you have a question? And then I think Mr. Evelyn does. Okay. Go ahead, Miss Abby.
What does leadership mean?
We've been studying it this month. I want one of you guys to answer that. What does leadership mean? And then we'll have Mr. Gourlay say if he agrees with what you said. Weston.
Go ahead, Weston. What does leadership mean?
Okay. Leadership is when you take charge of something. You are like the leader of something. You teach them. Like a teacher is basically a leader because she teaches the class and shows them how to do things.
Anyone else want to add to that?
Ezekiel? Go ahead and unmute yourself, Ezekiel.
Leadership is technically you're a follower and that you're technically helping other people learn more material.
It can be. That can be part of it. All right, Cora or Lane, last one. Cora and Lane, go ahead.
Leadership is somebody who takes charge, somebody who doesn't say, I did this. They say, we did this as a team. They don't take all the credit for something that they didn't do.
That's a good point.
Today, Cora, because Cora's a higher ranking than me, and she's in CIT. CIT is probably like helping you get that momentum to be and help you like have the leaders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so our CAT members are leaders. That's right. Mr. Gourlay, do you want to add to those?
I think that's absolutely amazing that everybody's retaining such good leadership traits. You want to find every opportunity you can to communicate with people and mentor. And as martial artists, you are mentors. And everybody watches you. You know, when I walk around the studio and I see the white belts and the orange belts just staring at the black belts, it's absolutely amazing. And just the way that you carry yourself around the studio and the respect that you show for the studio and the respect you show for the higher ranks, that's leadership. That is all part of it. You're showing what it means to be a good black belt. You're showing what it means to be a good orange belt. It doesn't matter. White belts, it makes no difference, because leaders aren't always in charge. Leaders can be anyone. So you can be a leader at any time, either in your personal life, in your business life, at the studio. You know, if somebody comes in and does a bow and you say, hey, we show respect to the studio, you need to bow, that's showing leadership. And so these are all different aspects of leadership that you can do. And one more thing that I would like to say is Master Lappin said that you're just about to start the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that is probably one of the best leadership books I've ever done. And I actually take the 7 habits and I email them to my team, 120 people, every single month. And every month we do 1 habit. And after 7 months, on the 8th month, we pick it back up again. And I tie it in to my business. I tie it into whatever we're dealing with that month. I take that habit and I use it to lead my people. So the fact that you're starting to do the 7 habits is absolutely amazing. I'm actually, this month we're back to habit number 1, which is be proactive. So Master Luton showed amazing leadership skills by being proactive and using the first habit by contacting me and asking me if I'd talk on leadership. So you see how that works? That's what we talk about. And being proactive is also asking the person to bow when you go into the studio, or making sure that your uniform's nice and clean and ready to go so that your mom and dad aren't chasing you down to get you to go to karate. That's being proactive, and that's showing leadership skills.
Absolutely. Do you have time, sir, for one more question?
Sure.
All right. Was that Mr. Paul or Miss Evelyn that had a question? Mr. Paul. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Paul.
He already tied into it. I was going to ask him with his mid-level managers how that would equate to the karate studio, meaning the CIT people and all that. So we don't want to scare a 9-year-old who's a CIT or moving on to CIT that they have to be in charge of an entire classroom. Like everything else, leadership, you build up, you get to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's very true. Lane brought that up. Our CIT members are building leadership. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's actually in the black belt manual, the correlation between a black belt and somebody in business as far as what the level is. And I think a 3rd degree black belt is right at like a vice president type role. So I think if you put it into a karate studio, Master Lappin would probably be my boss's boss. Master Luton would be my boss, then me. Then the frontline managers would be the first and second degree black belts. And then everybody else is helping run the business while they're developing. So when you come into my business, we have what's called career progression. Does everybody know what career progression means?
They probably don't.
When you start off as a white belt, yeah, that's okay. When you start off as a white belt, you work and work and work, and you show that you're good at stuff. And the better you get at it, the higher you go in the ranks. So you go from white to orange to green, etc. Well, the same thing happens in business. It's no different. When you first come into my business, I put you at the lowest level because you don't know it yet. And then I teach you and you learn and you grow and you grow and you grow. Well, at each different level, I'm paying people a different amount of money and I'm giving them different levels of opportunity. And the better you are at some of the skills that you learn in the leadership club as a child or even as an adult, these will come into the business world once you finish college and you go off to do what you need to do. You all have a 4-year degree and you're all at the same level as far as education. Well, now what is it that you do with that education to show that you're better than somebody else? And that's where your leadership skills come in. And that's what the masters and Middleburg martial arts are teaching you. So definitely take advantage of that.
Well, thank you. I think that everyone's in for a really good treat. This was a perfect way to start with our leadership with you, our seniors. So thank you so much for doing that. And I think you guys are in for a treat with some of our other leaders that have been in our program that were second or third degrees that are now very successful young people, which is just where you guys are going to be 10, 15 years from now. Because I don't know if you know, Mr. Gourlay, we've got Gwen coming in and Jarrett and Casey and the Ayers and Jacob Rupar, and all of those guys are majorly successful.
You know what? I wanted to say something too. Someone the other day, because some of you guys are newer and have not seen Mr. Gourlay, and someone asked me who Mr. Gourlay was, and I was like, well, he was one of the ones who got me ready for my first or second degree test. He was, you know, he taught a lot of those classes, really good classes, and a lot of my technique, things that I teach, I learned from Mr. Gourlay. So I think we should all unmute ourselves and say "Kamap Sumida" to Mr. Gourlay. Tell him thank you for coming out and give him a round of applause.